It has been 2 days since the Oberon rework came out, and I think that most of us are pretty familiar with the brand new ways to play him. But one method that I actually haven't seen anybody else post a video on, at least none of the big YouTubers, is nuking through his first ability, Smite. And that's probably because it is a very involved process that requires a lot of super high investment things. But trust me, if you have some of these, it makes Oberon into a very fun nuke frame. Sure, it's not Sevagoth levels of spam 1 and 2 and kill the entire tile set, but if you want to play Oberon just because he hasn't been good for like 5 years now, and now he can actually do something pretty cool, I promise you, you are going to enjoy this build. It does maintain all of the rework Oberon stuff like not being able to die, generating tons and tons of energy, and now you can just look at a group of enemies and one-tap them. To preface, I won't be going over every ability in his kit. I will be assuming that you already have a baseline knowledge of that, and if you don't, check the video in the pinned comment up here because that will be my previous Oberon video that does actually go over everything. But to start, we have Smite, which is Oberon's first ability and the focus of our video today. Smite is pretty simple. You spend 25 energy to do a couple of things, namely remove all of the armor and overguard off of enemies. I know this enemy doesn't have any overguard, but if they did, it would just all be gone, while also at base dealing 35% of their maximum health and shields back to them with a 100% chance to stagger them, and you will force trigger 10 radiation. Some other minor notes about this ability is that all of the damage is dealt as actual radiation. Right there you can see it does have the symbol and then the damage number. So the faction specific multipliers that each subgroup has do actually matter here, which is pretty important later. But other than that, you see that the ability has a 50-meter range, which means that the enemy you target has to be within 50 meters. Not that big of a problem because it does scale with range. But more importantly, there is the radial damage aspect of this ability. Right there, it says 10% in a radius of 6 meters. What this means is that enemies within 6 meters of the main target are dealt 10% of the main target's maximum health and shields and are also staggered. This is the key to our nuke. We want to turn that 10% into as close to 100%, or even just 100 if we can, as easily as possible. Now, unfortunately, 10% is a really low number, so we need to take advantage of a lot of different multipliers to achieve it, but it is actually possible. And here is the calculator that we are going to use to find out what the breakpoint is. This Desmos calculator was made by Mind Turtle of Death, so credit goes to them for it. But over here are our variables. We have roar, number of viral stacks, number of tower rad shards, the enemy armor value, and if they are Orichin or not. To explain this graph a little bit, 1 right here is the breakthrough of being able to one-tap an enemy. Consider 1 as just being an enemy's full HP. And if I raise enemy armor back up and we go over here, you can see that if the enemies have maximum armor, they won't be anywhere near getting one-tapped by the ability. And if we make them Orichin, it gets even worse. But lucky for us, Oberon does have an armor strip available in his kit, so we can assume that the enemy armor is going to be 0, which massively raises our damage. Roar is also going to be absolutely necessary here because it multiplies ability damage through the faction damage system, which is incredibly powerful. So if we add Roar into the mix here, boom. Already we are way over the breakpoint of being able to one-tap just the initial enemy, requiring only 184 strength to do so. But to one-tap an AoE around them, we would need 776 strength because the blue line is the AoE, the red line is the single target. So the other 2 methods of boosting our damage here are going to be the viral stack amount and the Tau Rad Shard amount. By Tau Rad Shards, it means the shard bonus of enemies take more damage from abilities when they are affected by the radiation status. Now, Oberon spreads a ton of radiation, so this is not a very difficult thing to do, but having actual Tau Rad Shards is kind of uncommon because other than this, they are easily the worst shard in the game. And I personally only have 2 Tau Rads and then 2 normals, which totals out to a 45% bonus. But this calculator only has the Tau Rad shard multiplier, so we're just going to assume that we have 3 of them, which would be 45% even if I have 50. But with that multiplier said, this lowers the breakpoint on strength to 432, which is still absurdly high and definitely not possible. So we are going to have to add viral into the mix, and a single stack of viral lowers the strength requirement with 3 Tau Rads, or a 45% equivalent, to 211, which is way easier to get. So coming back to Warframe, you will see that I do have the 4 Tau ability damage shards and then 1 casting speed shard. This is absolutely necessary, which is why I only have 4 of these. But ability wise, Roar Helmet, we get our armor strip from Reckoning. Hallowed Ground is going to give us all the radiation for the Archon shards. And then Smite is obviously the damage deal. Personally, Epitaph Prime is my choice of, hey, I need to shoot this big group of enemies and I want to get viral on them. It is just the best for this case. This is the build that I'm using. We're going all in on viral and radiation. Viral to multiply the damage, radiation just because because we want as much of that status as we can get. And then secondary encumbered doesn't really do anything here, but I have it anyways because it might give us additional viral per status effect. Same with radiation. But the actual Oberon build is quite simple. We are going as high on range and duration as we can get, while also making sure that our strength value is above 211%, which, with growing power added in here for another 25%, comes out to 232. Technically, you could swap out Augur Secrets for Augmented and then use Primed Flow here to get a final higher strength value, but that does mean you need to stack up Augmented before the build starts to one-tap, so I don't prefer to use that. Remember that Arcane Battery does give you additional maximum energy per the amount of armor you have, and while 450 armor doesn't give you that much energy, remember that Oberon's 4 can give him up to 1000 more armor, which makes the benefit from battery significantly higher. Hallowed Reckoning might seem like a little bit of a weird choice, but it does give us more range than just running Augur Reachwood here for our forked ability, which is necessary to armor strip enemies. And then seeing as this is a percent HP focused build, having a little bit of damage on the side from this augment is actually really nice to finish off any enemies that might be left at like 1 or 2% of their health, which is why I decided to use it. Now, I should probably demonstrate what this build actually looks like because I've only been talking about it so far, and even though I find it to function a lot better in mission than in the Simulacrum, here's what we've got going on. Cast our Hallowed Ground, armor strip all the enemies, hit them with the Epitaph, target someone, and kill everything. Except you. I don't know why you didn't die, but there you go. It's quite simple, and it is quite effective because Oberon will be generating infinite energy and survivability while doing this, so you kind of can't die while you just run around and nuke everything. You do need to spam his first ability quite often, but, you know, that shouldn't really be a problem. Like I said, infinite energy. I do recommend using a Panzer because this companion will passively spread the viral status everywhere. Here's the build that you should use. It also does give us a chance to generate even more health orbs, which isn't super needed, but we can do it, so we might as well. Here's the build for the claws. Pretty simple stuff here. And that pretty much wraps things up. This is a very simple build that just requires a lot of things. These Topaz Archon Shards are not common, so if you don't have these, then yeah, maybe you won't be able to pull this off immediately, but you definitely can still nuke with this on some lower levels. It's just if you want to push it as high as you can go, this is the route that you have to take. Alright, that is it for this one. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you soon for another video. Enjoy the gameplay. Peace.